The stars were quiet that night. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Fury, and watched the endless darkness of space through the main window. His fleet of 47 warships floated in formation behind him. They were far from home, patrolling the edge of known space where few ships ever traveled. Was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the United Earth Navy for 30 years. He had seen many battles. He had lost many friends. But he had never stopped believing that humans had a duty to protect those who could not protect themselves. Lieutenant sat at her communication station. She was young, only 25 years old, with sharp eyes and quick hands. Her job was to listen to the silence of space and find the voices hidden within it. Most days, she heard nothing but static, but tonight was different. A light blinked on her console, then another. A weak signal was coming through, broken and desperate. Pressed her headphones closer to her ears. The message was not in any human language. Her computer worked quickly to translate it. When the words appeared on her screen, her blood went cold. "Admiral," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "I have something." Turned to look at her. He saw the fear in her eyes, put it on speakers. The bridge fell silent as the message played. It was a voice, high and musical, but filled with terror. The translation appeared on the main screen as the alien spoke. "This is Ambassador of the People. Our world is under attack. The Dominion has come. They are bombing our cities. They are taking our people as slaves. Our shields will fall in hours. We have no weapons. We have no warships. We are sending this message to anyone who can hear us. Please. We have children here, families. Please help us, please." The message ended with the sound of explosions and screaming. No one on the bridge spoke. They all knew they were a peaceful race, known throughout the galaxy for their doctors and diplomats. They had blue skin and gentle voices. They did not believe in violence. They had never built a single weapon. And now they were dying. Commander Lee Minyu, the tactical officer, broke the silence. "Admiral, they are not our allies. We have no treaty with them. If we intervene, we could start a war with the Dominion." "I know," said quietly. "They have hundreds of ships," Minyu continued. "They are brutal. They care nothing for laws or treaties. They take what they want and kill anyone who stands in their way." "I know," said again. Dr. Hansara, the chief medical officer, stepped forward. She was a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had saved thousands of lives in her career. "Admiral, how many people live on Prime?" Looked at his data screen. "Approximately 8 million. 8 million innocent people," Sora said softly. 8 million people who sent a message into the darkness, hoping someone would hear them, hoping someone would care. Closed his eyes. He thought about his own daughter back on Earth. She was safe, sleeping in her bed, dreaming peaceful dreams. Somewhere far away, children were hiding in basements, listening to bombs fall, wondering if anyone would save them. He opened his eyes. "Lieutenant," he said, "open a channel to all ships in the fleet." His hands moved across her console. "Channel open, Admiral." Stood straight and spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Park to all ships of the 7th Expeditionary Fleet. Moments ago, we received a distress call from They are under attack by the Dominion. They have no way to defend themselves. They are asking for help." He paused and looked around his bridge. Every officer was watching him, waiting. "I will not order anyone to follow me into this fight," continued. "They are dangerous. We may be outnumbered. Some of us may not come back, but I cannot ignore the screams of innocent people. I cannot pretend I did not hear children crying for help. I am going to Prime. Anyone who wishes to join me, set your course now." He ended the transmission and waited. On his tactical display, he watched the icons representing his fleet. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, every single ship began to move. All 47 vessels turned toward Prime. Not a single captain chose to stay behind. Felt something warm in his chest. Pride, hope, love for the men and women who served with him. "Commander Lee," he said, "calculate the fastest route to Prime." Minu's fingers flew across his console. "Course plotted, Admiral. At maximum speed, we will arrive in 4 hours." "That may be too late," said quietly. "The message said their shields would fall in hours." "Then we had better hurry," replied. "All ships engage hyperspace drives, maximum power." The stars stretched into lines of light as the fleet jumped into hyperspace. The bridge hummed with energy. Officers moved quickly to their stations, preparing weapons, checking systems, making ready for battle. Dr. Sara began organizing her medical teams. She knew that when they arrived there would be wounded, many wounded. She hoped she would have enough supplies. She hoped she would be fast enough. Remained standing at the window, watching the streaks of light flash past. Somewhere ahead, millions of innocent beings were waiting. They did not know that help was coming. They did not know that 47 human warships were racing through space to save them. But knew, and he made a silent promise to those frightened people on that distant world. "Hold on," he thought. "We are coming, and when we arrive, they will learn what it means to threaten the innocent in front of humans." The Earth's fury flew on through the darkness, carrying the fury of humanity toward the stars. Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the destroyer, and smiled with his mandibles. Below him, the planet Prime burned. His fleet of 200 warships surrounded the world like hungry wolves around a wounded animal. Explosions lit up the surface as his bombers destroyed city after city. Was a massive creature. He stood 8 feet tall, with a hard shell covering his body and 4 arms ending in sharp claws. His eyes were black and cold, showing no mercy, no kindness. He had conquered 12 worlds in his lifetime. He had taken millions of slaves. There would simply be the latest addition to his collection. "Report," he commanded in his clicking, harsh voice. His sensor officer bowed low. "Supreme Commander, the planetary shields are failing. We estimate complete collapse within 2 hours. Ground forces are ready to deploy. We will begin capturing slaves immediately after." Made a sound of satisfaction. They were weak. They had no weapons, no fighters, no will to resist. They were perfect prey. Their doctors and scientists would fetch high prices in the slave markets. Their children would be trained as servants. Their world would be stripped of resources. "Contact from the surface," another officer reported. "The ambassador is begging again. Shall I ignore it?" "No," said Amused. "Let me hear their fear." The flickered and ambassador appeared. There was trembling. Tears streamed down their blue face. Behind them could see burning buildings and running people. "Please," begged. "We will give you anything, resources, technology, anything you want. Just stop the bombing. Let our children live. Please, I beg you." Laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Your begging pleases me, little creature, but I do not want your gifts. I want everything. Your people, your world, your future, and I will take it all." He cut the transmission and turned away. Let them cry, he thought. Their tears meant nothing. Then his sensor officer made a strange sound. It was almost like fear. "Supreme Commander," the officer said, his voice shaking. "Hyperspace signatures detected, many of them approaching fast." Frowned. "How many?" 47 vessels. They are human ships, Supreme Commander." Had heard of humans, a small species from a distant planet called Earth. They had only recently joined the galactic community. They were considered primitive and unimportant. He had never faced them in battle before. 47 ships against 200, laughed again. "They are either very brave or very stupid. Prepare to destroy them." Space itself seemed to tear open as the human fleet emerged from hyperspace. The ships were unlike anything had expected. They were angular, dark, covered in weapons. They looked like predators made of metal and rage. At the front of the formation flew the Earth's Fury, Admiral's flagship. It was massive, bristling with and missile launchers. As watched, The human ship spread out into a perfect battle formation with smooth, practiced movements. A transmission came through, allowed it. Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He was calm, too calm. His eyes were hard and cold. "This is Admiral Park of the United Earth Navy," he said. "You are engaged in the unlawful attack of a civilian population. You have 60 seconds to cease fire and withdraw from this system. If you do not comply, we will consider this an act of war and respond with full force. This is your only warning." Stared at the human. Then he burst into laughter. His entire bridge crew joined him, their clicking voices filling the air. "You threaten me, little human," said when he could speak again. "Look at my fleet. I have 200 warships. You have less than 50. You cannot win. Turn and run now, and I may let you live." Did not blink. 45 seconds. "You do not understand," said, leaning forward. We have conquered 100 worlds. We have crushed species far more powerful than yours. You are nothing but soft-skinned weaklings from a forgotten planet." 30 seconds, replied. Felt anger rising in his chest. How dare this creature ignore him? He was supreme commander of the Dominion. He was feared across the galaxy. "Attack them," he ordered. "Destroy every human ship. Leave no survivors." The fleet moved forward, weapons charging. 200 warships against 47. The math was simple. The humans would die. But the humans did not run. Instead, they accelerated toward the fleet. Their ships moved with terrifying speed and precision, weaving through the void like they were born in space. And then they opened fire. Had never seen weapons like this before. The human fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. The slugs tore through shields like they were paper. They punched through hulls and exploded out the other side. Ship after ship burst into flames. Missiles streamed from the human vessels in waves. The point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Explosions bloomed across the formation. In the first 5 minutes, the humans destroyed 30 ships. Could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet was being torn apart by an enemy less than a quarter of his size. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered before. They were aggressive, relentless, terrifying. "What are they?" his tactical officer screamed. "What kind of creatures are these?" Remembered an old word he had heard once, spoken in fear by a trader from a distant world. The word was. It meant a species that evolved on a planet so dangerous, so violent, that simply surviving made them into warriors. He looked at the burning wreckage of his ships and finally understood. The humans were. And he had made them angry. "All ships focus fire on their flagship," roared, "kill their leader." 100 ships turned their weapons on the Earth's fury. Energy beams and missiles streaked towards vessel. The human ship shook under the assault. Its shields flickered. Damage alarms sounded. But the Earth's fury did not retreat. Instead, it flew straight into the heart of the fleet, guns blazing. Behind it, the other human ships followed like a pack of wolves. On the bridge, Admiral stood firm, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. No panic, no fear. "Forward batteries," commanded. "Target their flagship." The Earth's fury turned its main weapons toward ship and fired. Barely had time to scream before the first slug hit his vessel. The destroyer shuddered violently. Alarms filled the bridge. Fire burst from the walls. "Retreat," ordered, his voice filled with terror. "All ships retreat." But it was too late. The humans had come for blood, and they would not stop until they learned the price of harming innocents. While fire rained from the sky above, Captain prepared her soldiers for war. She stood in the drop bay of the transport ship Hammer of Dawn, surrounded by 200 Earth Marines. They wore heavy-powered armor that made them look like metal giants. Each suit weighed 500 pounds and could stop bullets, survive explosions, and give its wearer the strength of 10 men. In their hands, they held weapons designed to kill. was 32 years old with short black hair and a scar on her left cheek from a battle long ago. She had led Marines into combat on 6 different worlds. She had never lost a fight. She did not plan to lose this one. "Listen up," she said, her voice echoing through the bay. "The situation is simple. They have landed ground forces on Prime. They are rounding up civilians and loading them onto slave ships. Our mission is to stop them, rescue the hostages, and send every soldier back to hell." The Marines cheered. They pounded their armored fists against their chests. "They are big," continued. "They are mean. They have thick shells and sharp claws. They think they are scary." She smiled coldly. "Let us show them what scary really looks like." The dropship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Prime. Fire covered the windows as they fell through the sky. Anti-aircraft weapons from the forces shot at them. Explosions rocked the vessel. Private gripped his seat tightly. He was only 20 years old, the youngest Marine in the unit. This was his first real combat mission. His heart was beating fast, and his hands were sweating inside his gloves. Next to him sat Sergeant, a veteran soldier with tired eyes and steady hands. She had fought in more battles than she could count. She looked at and saw his fear. "First time is always the hardest," she said calmly. "Just stay close to me. Remember your training, and remember why we are here." "Why are we here?" asked. Pointed at a screen showing the surface below. Civilians were running through burning streets. Soldiers were grabbing them, throwing them into transports. Children were screaming for their parents. "That is why," said, "because someone has to help them, and we are the only ones who can." The dropship landed hard in the middle of a ruined plaza. The doors opened, and the Marines poured out into chaos. The city was on fire. Buildings had collapsed. Bodies lay in the streets. There were a gentle people, blue-skinned and soft-spoken, and they had no way to fight back against the. They could only run and hide and pray. But now the humans had arrived. Captain raised her weapon and saw a squad of soldiers dragging a group toward a transport. They were huge, nearly twice the size of humans, with armored bodies and deadly claws. Marines shouted, "Attack!" The humans charged forward with a battle cry that echoed off the ruined walls. They turned, surprised. They had never seen humans before. They did not understand what they were facing. They learned quickly. His rifle barked and the first soldier fell, its shell shattered by armor-piercing rounds. Her Marines spread out, moving with practiced precision, covering each other, advancing without pause. They fired back with energy weapons, but human armor absorbed the shots. The battle was violent and short. In minutes, all the soldiers lay dead. The hostages stared at their rescuers with wide, shocked eyes. They had never seen creatures like humans before. The Marines were covered in blood and dust, their armor from battle. They looked terrifying. Then Sergeant knelt down beside a young child who was crying. She removed her helmet, showing her human face. She smiled gently. "You are safe now," she said in a soft voice. "No one will hurt you, I promise." The child stopped crying and reached out to touch his face. The adults watched in amazement. These fierce warriors who had killed without mercy moments ago were now being gentle with their children. Captain gathered her troops. "We move toward the city center. Intelligence says they have set up a main collection point there. Hundreds of hostages. We free them all." The Marines moved through the burning streets, fighting their way forward. Every time they found soldiers, they destroyed them. Every time they found civilians, they protected them. Private found himself carrying a wounded elder on his back while firing his rifle with one hand. The elder was too weak to walk and refused to leave anyone behind. His arm burned with exhaustion, but he kept going. In another part of the city, Sergeant came upon a collapsed building. She could hear voices inside, crying for help. Without hesitation, she grabbed a fallen support beam and lifted it. The beam weighed over 1,000 pounds, but her powered armor gave her the strength to hold it. "Go," she shouted to the trapped inside. Get out now. They scrambled out one by one, mothers carrying bobbies, fathers holding children, old people moving slowly. Arms shook with the effort, but she held the beam until every single person was free. When the last escaped, she let the beam fall and collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. A young female rushed back to her. "Thank you," they said, tears streaming down her blue face. "You saved my family, thank you." Looked up and smiled wearily. "That is what we do. Now go find somewhere safe." The battle raged for hours. They had thousands of soldiers on the ground, but the humans fought with a fury that could not be matched. They did not care about the odds. They did not care about their own safety. They only cared about saving every innocent life they could. By the time the sun began to set on Prime, the ground forces were in full retreat. Human Marines controlled the city center. Hundreds of hostages had been freed. Ambassador arrived at the human command post, escorted by Marine guards. The ambassador stared at Captain with eyes full of wonder and confusion. "I do not understand," said. "Why did you come? We are not your allies. We have nothing to offer you. Why would you risk your lives for us?" Looked at the ambassador for a long moment. Then she looked at her Marines, tired and wounded, but standing proud. She looked at the civilians they had saved, huddled together, alive. "Because you asked for help," said simply, "and we heard you." Began to cry. In space above, the battle continued. But on the ground, hope had returned to Prime. The humans had come, and they had brought salvation with them. Supreme Commander watched his empire crumble from the bridge of his damaged flagship. The space around Prime was filled with the burning wreckage of ships. Of the 200 vessels he had brought to this conquest, more than 100 had been destroyed. The humans had torn through his fleet like predators through prey. Their black warships moved with deadly grace, their weapons never missing, their tactics impossible to predict. Had never known fear before. Now he tasted it like poison in his mouth. "Supreme Commander," his officer reported, voice trembling, "our fleet is scattered. Shields are failing across multiple vessels. The humans have destroyed our command structure. We cannot coordinate our forces." "Then run," snarled. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We retreat." It was shameful. They never retreated. They conquered. They dominated. They crushed their enemies without mercy. But the humans had changed everything. They had turned the hunters into the hunted. Punched in the coordinates for home. He would escape, rebuild his fleet, and return one day for revenge. The humans would pay for this humiliation. He would make them suffer. But as his ship's engines powered up, new alarms screamed across the bridge. "Hyperspace blocked," the navigation officer shouted. "Enemy vessels have positioned themselves behind us. We cannot jump." Stared at the tactical display in horror. 3 human destroyers had moved around the battlefield without him noticing. They now sat directly in his escape path, weapons aimed and ready. Admiral had predicted his move. The human commander appeared unbidden. His face was calm and cold. Behind him, the bridge of the Earth's fury showed damage from battle but no panic. "Did you really think we would let you escape?" said quietly. "After what you have done?" Bared his mandibles in rage. "You cannot win, human. Even if you destroy me, the Dominion will send 1,000 ships to avenge me. You have signed your own death warrant. Did not blink, perhaps, but you will not be alive to see it." Cut the transmission and screamed at his crew. "All weapons, target the planet. If I cannot have victory, I will have destruction. We will burn their precious Prime to ash." His weapons officers hesitated. Planetary bombardment of a civilian population was extreme even for the But's eyes burned with madness, and they feared their commander more than they feared anything else. The flagship's heavy cannons began to turn toward the planet below. Energy built in the weapon chambers. One shot would kill millions. On the Earth's fury, Lieutenant saw the weapons charging. Her blood went cold. "Admiral," she shouted, The flagship is targeting the planet. They are preparing planetary bombardment weapons. His calm expression cracked for just a moment, showing the fury beneath. He had seen evil before. He had fought monsters, but threatening to murder millions of innocent civilians out of spite was beyond anything he had encountered. "All ships," commanded, his voice like ice. "Focus all fire on the enemy flagship. Now, do not stop until it is destroyed." 43 human warships turned their attention to his vessel. Every missile, every laser pointed at one target. And they fired together. The barrage was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of slugs crossed the void in seconds. Hundreds of missiles followed close behind. Energy beams carved through space like swords of light. Shields held for 3 seconds, then they collapsed. The first slugs hit the hull and tore through deck after deck. Explosions ripped through the ship's interior. Crew members screamed as they were thrown into the void. Fire spread through corridors and consumed everything in its path. On the bridge, watched the walls crack and buckle around him. Sparks flew from destroyed consoles. His officers died one by one, crushed or burned or thrown into space. "No," whispered, "this is impossible. We are supreme. We cannot fall to these. A final transmission came through, cutting off his words. Admiral's face appeared one last time on the flickering screen. "For," said. The next slug hit the flagship's power core. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The destroyer vanished in a sphere of blinding light, expanding outward like a new star being born. Debris scattered across space, glowing orange and red against the black void. Supreme Commander was gone. The remaining ships saw their leader die and lost all will to fight. Some tried to surrender. Others tried to flee. The humans let the surrendering ships live but pursued those who ran. They would not allow any to escape and threaten innocence again. Down on Prime, Captain and her Marines watched the sky light up with the flagship's destruction. The civilians around them looked up in wonder. "Is it over?" Ambassador asked, hope and fear mixing in their voice. Listen to the reports coming through her communicator. The fleet was broken. The ground forces were surrendering. The planet was secure. "It is over," she said. Fell to their knees and wept. Medical ships began landing across the planet. Dr. Hansara led the first team down, rushing from her vessel with supplies and equipment. She found wounded everywhere, and she treated them all with gentle hands and kind words. A young child watched her work. The child had been hurt in a bombing, but Sora cleaned the wound carefully and wrapped it in soft bandages. "Will I be okay?" the child asked in a small voice. Sora smiled. "You will be fine, I promise. You are very brave." "Are you an angel?" the child asked. Sora paused. She looked at her hands, covered in blue blood. She looked at the Marines around her, still carrying weapons, still covered in the dirt of battle. She thought about what humans really were, creatures of violence and compassion, capable of terrible destruction and great mercy. "No," she said softly, "we are not angels, we are just humans, and we help those who need it." Above them, Admiral looked down at the planet his fleet had saved. The cost had been real. 4 ships damaged, 12 Marines killed in ground combat. Each loss weighed on his heart. But 8 million were alive tonight, because humans had answered their call. Commander Li Minyu approached him. "Admiral, the battle is over. What are your orders?" Was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Begin rescue and relief operations. Help the rebuild what was destroyed, and make sure every being on that planet knows they are safe now." Minyu nodded and went to work. Remained at the window watching the stars. Somewhere out there the Dominion would be learning of this defeat. They would be angry. They might seek revenge. But the humans would be ready. They had protected the innocent before, and they would do it again, because that was what humans did. That was who they were. The Galactic Federation Council chamber was vast. stretching wider than any building on Earth. Representatives from 100 different species sat in their designated areas, watching the central platform with great attention. This was where the fate of civilizations was discussed, where treaties were signed, and where the truth was told. Today, ambassadors stood on that platform, preparing to change everything. The ambassador still wore simple robes, but they stood taller than before. The fear that had filled their eyes during the attack was gone. In its place was something new, hope and gratitude. Distinguished members of the council began, their musical voice carrying through the chamber. 3 weeks ago, my world was dying. The Dominion came to enslave us. They bombed our cities. They killed our people. We had no weapons, no warships, no way to defend ourselves. We sent a message into the darkness, begging for anyone to help us. Paused, the chamber was completely silent. We expected nothing. We were a small, peaceful people. We had no allies, no treaties, no value to offer anyone. Why would anyone risk their lives for us? Looked around at the assembled representatives. But someone did answer. The humans came. A screen behind lit up with footage from the battle. The council members watched as human warships tore through the fleet. They watched as Marines fought through burning streets to rescue civilians. They watched as doctors treated wounded with gentle care. The humans did not ask what we could give them, continued. They did not demand payment or alliance. They simply heard our cry for help and responded. They flew across space, outnumbered nearly 5-1, and they fought for us. They bled for us. Some of them died for us. His voice cracked with emotion. I asked their admiral why. Why would you risk everything for strangers? Do you know what he told me? He said, you called for help, we answered. That is what humans do. The chamber erupted in whispers. Representatives from dozens of species exchanged shocked glances. The humans were a young species, barely known in galactic politics. They were considered primitive, aggressive, and dangerous. No one had expected them to be capable of such compassion. The ambassador, a reptilian creature with cold eyes, stood up. This is propaganda. The humans they come from a planet of poison and violence. They are warriors, not saviors. Turn to face you are right, they are warriors. I watch them fight. They are terrifying in battle, but I also watch them carry our wounded to safety. I watch them comfort our frightened children. I watch them weep over their fallen comrades. His voice grew stronger. Yes, they come from a harsh world. Yes, they evolved through violence. But they chose to use that strength to protect the weak. They chose to answer the cries of strangers. That is not the action of monsters. That is the action of heroes. The footage continued to play. It showed Sergeant holding up a collapsing building so civilians could escape. It showed Private carrying a wounded elder while fighting off attackers. It showed Dr. Hansara working through the night to save lives, never resting, never complaining. And it showed Admiral Park's final message to the commander, spoken just before the enemy flagship was destroyed. 4. The ambassador played one last piece of footage. It was from after the battle, when the fighting was over and the rebuilding had begun. Human soldiers were helping families return to their homes. They were passing out food, treating injuries, clearing rubble. In the center of the image, a human Marine sat on a pile of broken stone. A young child was sitting next to him, drawing a picture with colored sticks. The Marine watched the child draw, and on his battle-scarred face was the gentlest smile. This is what humans are, said softly. They are fire and mercy. They are strength and kindness. They are terrifying to their enemies and protective of the innocent. I have never met a species like them before. The chamber fell silent again. Then slowly the ambassador stood. They were an ancient species, respected throughout the galaxy. Their representative was old and wise. I have watched humans from a distance for many years, they said. I believed them to be dangerous. Perhaps I was right. They are dangerous, but danger itself is neither good nor evil. It depends on how it is used. The ambassador looked at These humans used their danger to save 8 million innocent lives. I find that admirable. One by one, other ambassadors stood and spoke. Some praised the humans, some expressed caution, but none could deny what had happened at Prime. The humans had been tested and they had shown their true nature. After the council session ended, Admiral received a communication from Earth. The President herself wanted to speak with him. Her face appeared on his screen. She was an older woman with kind eyes. "Admiral, the galaxy is talking about what you did. Some are calling you heroes, others are calling you reckless. What do you say?" Thought for a moment. "I say that we did what was right. 8 million people were going to die. We had the power to stop it, so we did." The President smiled. Simple as that. Simple as that. On Prime, the rebuilding continued. Human engineers helped repair damaged buildings. Human doctors set up permanent medical stations. Human soldiers trained volunteers in self-defense so that they would never be helpless again. Captain walked through the streets of the capital city. The no longer ran from her. Instead, they waved, smiled, and called out greetings. Children ran up to her and asked to touch her armor. She found Private sitting near a fountain, sharing his lunch with a group of youngsters. He looked up when she approached. "Captain," he said, standing quickly. "At ease," replied, smiling. "You have made friends." Blushed. "They are curious. They have never seen humans before. They keep asking me questions about Earth." "What do you tell them?" "Thought about it. I tell them the truth, that Earth is dangerous, that our planet tried to kill us every day, that we survived because we learned to protect each other." He looked at the children. "And I tell them that we protect others too, anyone who needs help, because that is what it means to be human." Felt a warmth in her chest. This young soldier, who had been so afraid during his first battle, had learned something important, something that went beyond fighting and killing, something that made humans more than just warriors. Far across the galaxy, the Dominion received word of their defeat. Of the 200 ships that had attacked Prime, only 19 returned home. The rest were destroyed or captured. Supreme Commander was dead, and the humans had sent a message: "Prey on the innocent, and we will come for you." The Council argued for weeks about what to do. Some wanted revenge. Others urged caution. In the end, they chose to avoid human space. They were too dangerous. The cost of fighting them was too high. And across 100 worlds, 100 species looked at humanity with new eyes. They saw the danger, yes, the power, the fury, but they also saw something else. They saw protectors. They saw defenders. They saw hope. Admiral stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the stars. Behind him, his crew prepared for the long journey home. They had won a great victory and saved millions of lives. Lieutenant joined him at the window. "Admiral, do you think others will remember what we did here?" Watch the distant lights of Prime grow smaller. They will remember, for a while at least. Memories fade. But the important thing is not whether they remember us. The important thing is that we remember who we are. "And who are we?" asked. Smiled. It was a tired smile, but a proud one. "We are humans. We hear the calls of those in need and we answer. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We show mercy to the defeated and protection to the weak. That is our nature. That is our choice." The Earth's fury turned toward home and jumped into hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light, and the human fleet vanished from space. But their legend remained. In the years to come, when children on distant worlds asked about the From Earth, they would hear the story of Prime. They would hear of the 47 ships that defeated 200. They would hear of the soldiers who fought like demons and loved like angels. And they would know that somewhere in the darkness of space, the humans were watching, ready to answer the next call for help, ready to remind the galaxy what it meant to stand against evil, ready to be humanity.